Okay, hey everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of Whisper Through the Veil. Um it's late as fuck right now. I think it's 1:28 in the morning right now. But I don't care. I need to get shit done. I just got back from New York City. I was out, but I could care less. I really wanted to film today, and so that's what we're going to do. In today's video, again, just like every other video or every other podcast episode, I never really have a structure with this kind of thing. I'm not somebody that works off structure, to be completely honest with you. So we're just going to talk about whatever comes to mind. And something I wanted to kind of talk about today in specific is how people, you know, uh, people's viewpoints on reality are so concrete. But when we look at life through this observer's viewpoint, and we look at life, just how you were as a person from just say like a year ago to right now, you are not the fucking same person. The circumstances you were in and the thought patterns you had are not the fucking same, right? So how can something that you believe as a concrete viewpoint, right? It's so fucking malleable because it's always shifting, it's always changing, right? So this is why, for those of you that have a harder time believing in change, look back at yourself. Look back at your own life, right? Look back at how things fucking changed for you. You know what? You know what? Today's episode, because I love talking about how important reflection is and how reflection saved my fucking life, we're going to talk about reflection, okay? I'm going to talk about why reflection can be a really fucking good tool, right? And just to kind of get this out of the way, you don't really need shit to manifest. You don't need tools. You don't need fucking anything really. You just need you and your faith, your trust, and that's it. Okay? But again, these tools like reflection are only really there to kind of help you disengage from the ego, kind of disengage from your old story, right? That's really all it is. We dumb down reflection. It's pretty much just you looking back at who you were and then learning how to choose yourself. That's really all it is, okay? Um, and also, side note, please don't mind my dirty ass bed in the back. I haven't been home the whole day, and I was not gonna fix my bed to record a video. I'm sorry, I don't care. All right, so just deal with that. Um, but yeah, look, reflection, right? Even before I started manifesting, even before I was doing any of this, I was always reflective. I'm a deeply reflective person by nature, right? And so this is, if you're somebody who's like me, this specific video is probably going to help you a lot more because you can probably relate to it a lot more. And if you're not in the habit of reflecting with yourselves, then I think you should be. I think reflection will help you in specific. For those of you that don't really reflect on anything in your life, and you're probably wondering, well, how the fuck did I get in situations like this? Let's find out, right? Let's find out. Let's find out, right? So, let me teach you how to reflect and how to do it properly, right? And you don't need to be in a meditative state to reflect. You don't need to be in like fucking, like you don't need to do that shit. You can just do it any given point for as long as you fucking want. It doesn't really matter, okay? But to keep it simple, right? In the simplest way that you can ever reflect anything, right? If you're trying to understand why certain things happen in your life, and this is how you're gonna do it, find one moment in your life, right? Either good or bad, something where shit worked out for you or shit didn't work out for you, okay? And what I want you to do is think what thoughts were going through your mind. Who were you being in those moments before shit happened for you in a good way, or when shit happened for you in a bad way, right? What thoughts were going through your mind? What were you entertaining? How are you presenting yourself? What was your fucking mood like? How were you feeling before shit happened? Okay? So when you do this, then you will find out so much about yourself. You will find out so much about who the fuck you are being. And then when you know who you are being, you stop being that old version of yourself and you start being the new version of you because you've reflected on it. And so when you reflect on something, you understand, hey, this was good for me. I should keep doing this. Or hey, this was bad for me. Let me not do this. Or let me not put myself in that position anymore. Okay? And so it is so it is one of the easiest ways to understand your ego. And not to say that you need to understand your ego all the time, right? It's not like you have to have the greatest fucking understanding of your ego, but if you do, it makes you that much more of a fucking manifestation weapon, okay? Understanding your ego is pretty much understanding every limitation or block you might even you have in yourself, right? You are essentially making a cheat sheet on how to not be and how to not entertain the old thoughts that you used to make your fucking life, okay? Because once you know what you did wrong, once you know what you did right, you stop doing that shit, okay? So, um, and again, I'm very passionate about this. I'm talking about this in a very passionate way because I love reflection. And sometimes, if it helps you, play some fucking music. You can play some music and then reflect through that. Do whatever helps you get in a reflective, like, oh, let me get a little introspective with myself, right? Whatever you got to do to get in that mood, just fucking do it, okay? But as you reflect, there's certain things you want to look out for, right? Look and think back and look at certain specific patterns that were going on in your thought processes, right? What kind of thoughts were you entertaining, right? And I'll use myself um, as an example, pretty much, of what I used to do as I was initially getting into manifestation, or not, sorry, not even manifestation. I'll give a different story, okay? One of the first times that I can really, remember myself reflecting deeply, right, on who I was and what kind of shit I was entertaining around myself. And this story kind of goes back all the way to when I was in high school, okay? So I'm 21 years old right now, but this was when I want to say 16, 17 years. Actually, no, it must have been like 15. Actually, yeah, no, 16. Around 16 years old, 16 to 17, something like that. Okay? So I used to be in a really kind of not the best friend group, in terms of people you'd really want to surround yourself with. And, that tends to be the case when you're in high school. You don't really have the best friends, but, uh, shit just kind of is the way it is. You're in that, you're like, oh man, but I fucking love these people, or these people are like my fucking dogs, man, and I'm gonna ride and die with these motherfuckers, right? But that doesn't always end up being the case. But anyway, putting that to the side. So I remember, as long as I could remember, there were times, so many times, where they would, it was a local friend group, as in like in the community I lived. So it wasn't like I could ever really escape them, right? But I had a really not like a I had a really like love hate relationship with these people because they were definitely the type of people to kick you while you were down and kind of make you the kind of the butt of the joke, in a lot of in a lot of things, right? And I often found myself kind of being the butt of the joke for these guys a lot, but there were times where like I wouldn't be the butt of the joke, and in those moments I was happy. I was glad that I wasn't the one getting fucking, it's kind of just how male friend groups are, there will always be, like light fun, but sometimes it goes a little too far, whatever. But, in the moments where it wasn't me, I was so glad that I wasn't getting ripped because, again, before I looked as fucking handsome and gorgeous as I do right now, I used to be a very different person. I used to be fat. I used to oh my god, I could go into it, but that's just not who I am anymore. I don't really care. But just know I wasn't the most attractive looking person, and I was definitely a pretty large, chunky guy. And so I'm sure you could guess what that, as a teenage boy, you could probably guess how that went, right? So a lot of the times I felt like I was never good enough, and these were the thoughts I was entertaining about myself, right? I personally thought I had no future, that I was never going to be in a relationship, or that I was never going to get the attention from women that I wanted for whatever reason, right? Like because of how I looked, I just thought it was over for me at that age. And again, if you guys are, if any of you, I doubt there's anybody who's watching this that, that young at that 16, 17 years old, but you guys got to understand, I'm still pretty young myself, but you got to understand 16 to 17, that's fucking baby age, okay? You're not going to care about half the shit you cared about at 16, 17, at 21. You're just not going to, right? um and I'm sure to the older audiences that I have, You guys don't give a fuck about what you were thinking at 16 or 17 now, at our grown age, right? So, you know, don't take it too seriously, right? Don't take those years super seriously, even though it might feel like the heaviest shit on earth. But, going back to the story at hand. So, when I was with these guys, I used to actually dread hanging out with them, right? I would get back from school, we'd all be on the same bus, but, we wouldn't always like find the space to sit next to each other, whatever. So, right after school would end, because we lived in the same neighborhood, like literally in like the same circle, they would hang out like right after school, right? So right after school, put our book bags back, and I used to want to stay in the house all the time because I was like, fuck, I don't want to like hang out with these people right now. Like I don't want to get ripped for no reason, you know. So I would like pretend to not hear the door. I would pretend to do all these things, but I held this dominant assumption that these people were kind of out to hurt me, right? And so when you hold a belief like that, that people are out to hurt you, what is reality going to do? So reality is going to kind of keep feeding you experiences that you know that will reflect that back to you, right? So during this age, I didn't really like myself all that much. I didn't have the best thoughts about myself. I didn't really think I was ever going to amount to anything in my life. And to me, I just would have been lucky enough to graduate high school, right? But I had a really bad self concept at the time, and so I entertained all these really bad thoughts about myself, and my friends at the time would reflect those same thoughts back at me. And so this went on for so long. I mean, this was happening before I was even 16, 17. But, you know, I one day, decided that I had enough. And this kind of goes to show just how quickly reality will work for you, right? I actually got home one day. So we were out playing volleyball. This was in the summer. I got home from playing volleyball, and it was pretty late. I think it might have been 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, something like that. I don't even remember. Late for that age. But I came back at that time, and my mom and my dad came into my room, and they're fucking yelling at me like crazy. They're like, what were you doing out this late? Like, what company were you with? We don't even know who you were with, whatever. And I remember, like, I told you guys I was gonna go play volleyball, and then we went somewhere to eat in a college campus nearby where I live. And for whatever reason that day, it just kind of, my mom kind of just snapped at me that day, and I was just like, what is going on? You know, and my mom, really, I think seeing her in that state of just like like being so troubled by the people I was around, kind of gave me the confirmation that you know it gave me the confirmation that whatever I was feeling about these people was true, right? And so I wanted better for myself. I actually had another group of friends that did actually treat me really well and did actually, respect me. And surprise, surprise, those are the same friends that I have now at, my own age right now. We're very close friends, and, these are people I'm living like my life day to day with, and, experiencing life with nowadays. But, you know, I had these friends that I would often neglect, and I would often kind of look down on them a little bit because when you're in that position of where you're being treated so horribly, and then you're in a separate position where you're actually being treated really well, you almost get this superiority thing where you're like, oh my god, I'm just so much better than all these people because whatever you were experiencing back then was so bad that you were just like, oh, thank God I have this, right? So I would often neglect my actual friends, like the people that really did care about me. Like they would kind of try to get me involved in things, and I just wouldn't go, and I just wouldn't give them this exact same respect that they were giving me, because I just so badly wanted to be accepted by you know uh, the people that I wanted to be closer with at the time anyway. But that day, after she yelled at me and whatever, I decided that I'm gonna cut them off. Enough was enough, and I wasn't going to let that continue because I knew my worth as a person. I deserved better than being treated, uh, you know, being treated better than I was then, and by, I was being treated by them. And so ultimately, just by making the choice that I deserved better, over time, I, you know, gained the ability to naturally raise my self concept to a better place. Granted, it wasn't perfect, right? There were still a lot of things that I hadn't addressed at the time, deeper facets of my life that I just didn't address at the time. But, you know, for what I wanted to get done and what I wanted to get accomplished in that moment of just having friends, what I wanted, right? So if I was to break it down, the desire I truly wanted was to have actual friends that respect me, that I can cherish and live a better life with, right? But reality can only show you what you've accepted as truth. So even if whatever you're asking for is right in front of your eyes, you will not see it because reality will filter it out to show you the bullshit that you've accepted as truth, right? So even when I knew these friends were already in my life, that I already did have this amazing friend group that recognized my worth because deep down I knew I was worth it regardless of my physical appearance. The way I act right now, as bubbly and charismatic as of a person I am right now, I've always been that my whole life. Like, I've always been a very charismatic person that people look up to anyway. Before the whole glow up, right? This glow up is just an additional factor, right? But my entire life, I've had pretty much the similar uh, self concept, right? I believed better for myself. And as soon as I made that decision, hey, I'm going to cut these guys off, man, I deserve the best, reality worked like this to make that happen. The very next day, okay? Very next day, I remember they knocked on my door. Come outside, man. Come out, Vedant, come outside. No, I got shit to do. I got to study for the SAT. And then it became a repeat thing. So every day they would keep asking me, I'd be like, no, 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 I can't, no, I can't. And there would be times where I fucking looked out my window. I saw them hanging out. I could hear their voices from my room, and I was just like, oh, fuck, man, should I go? Like, I want to hang out with them. There were times where my mom was like, oh, Valence, why aren't you hanging out with your friends? And I'm like, I have, I have better stuff to be doing right now. And you know, that was a real kind of test to, from myself to myself to kind of see how, was I really dedicated to this identity? And mind you, although I had these friends, right? It felt like I had no friends because again, this was around COVID time, so it's not like I was really actually COVID had just started around that time actually, so it's not like I could go out anyway, in the first place. So I was at home alone, didn't have friends, or didn't have friends, had friends, but obviously reality couldn't show that to me because of who I was being. So what happened was I was like, damn, okay, well, I cut these guys off. I know I deserve better than this. What can I do? And I remembered at the time, my friend group that I have now, they used to have, or they still have, we still have this, but we had a Discord group chat or like a Discord server. And I remembered I was in it. So I just went in the chat one day and I started texting. I just started typing on there. I was too afraid to get on VC because I didn't want to be perceived in a certain way. And obviously that came down to self concept. So, you know, that that inspired action that I took because I was being the identity that deserved better and that had a good friend group inspired me to get back on the Discord server and start chatting, right? So I started chatting with them again, and then I eventually worked up the courage to get on the VC, and then I would get on the voice call every single day, and we were getting on the voice call every single day. So the whole point of the story is not for me to give you my experiences of friendship in my teenage years, but it's to understand that I was reflecting in that time between, right, from when I made the decision that, hey, I deserve better for myself, to I finally have a friend group that understands me, right? The bridge of events from here, I made the decision, here, I have it now, physically in my 3D. I was reflecting throughout that. And when you reflect, it gives you a broader understanding of yourself, why you act the way you do, and what you really want, what you actually want out of life, what you actually want out of an experience, what you actually want out of anything. And so when you do this and you do get a deeper understanding, it's harder for your ego to fight you on that because you already understand why you're feeling this. You already understand why you did accept certain things as truth in the past anyway, and why you won't be accepting that bullshit anymore because it's not real anymore, right? It's so easy to get hung up on the past. It's so easy to get hung up on a old story. It's so easy to get hung up on a belief of somebody and how they were or how they show up for you when it's right in front of your face. But sometimes reflecting on yourself, but now you're reflecting not not through your ego anymore, right? You're reflecting as somebody that knows how the law of life works. You're reflecting as somebody who knows how reality is supposed to work, right? So, when you reflect, you're reflecting not on what you did or what came out of it, but rather you're going to reflect on who you were being in those moments and what thoughts you had, what you were entertaining, and what you were being okay with, right? So even when like I was being disrespected by these people, and I was in this time where I just wasn't being treated the best internally. I was still giving myself grace, right? I didn't have the best self concept, but I did give myself grace that I knew I deserved better, and that you know I gave myself that kind of mental escape that I deserved, right? It's been a long time, so I can't give you the exact, what I was thinking and giving myself internally, but I had things that I was doing for myself that I enjoyed, and this is why living your life, doing shit that you like to do is so important, and it can speed up your manifestations in the sense where you're not so focused on it. You're not so focused and looking for proof of anything because you're just doing shit that you find fun, that you're just kind of, like you're living your life and it just kind of pops up for you naturally, right? So this all kind of happened in the span of like 2 3 months, but I didn't even recognize that time had gone by because I was busy doing my own thing. I was busy, obviously, with school, but I was also busy with, I was playing games. I was fucking, what teenagers do? I was gaming. I used to be really into graphic design, so I was graphic designing all the time. I was making YouTube videos for like other shit in the past, right? So like I was doing a lot of things to keep myself busy, and before you even knew it, shit just fucking happened. Worked out, got new friends, got a fucking upgrade in life, and so you know, looking at your past experiences can give you a really nice insight as to why you are the way you are right now, because you understand why you again, like I've been saying, you learn to accept and you learn to understand what you've been accepting for yourself and how to not accept that for yourself anymore. As soon as you know what you've been accepting for yourself, it is just on you to make that decision that, hey, I'm not going to accept this anymore. I'm not going to tolerate that bullcrap anymore, and that this is what I'm only going to accept this. But a lot of the time, we the weight that we place on people, on things, prevents us from really doing that. But it's just a matter of sticking to it, right? Like for an SP, right? For an example of an SP, you might look at this person as somebody greater than you, and that tends to be the case for a lot of people, right? That was the case for me. I put my SP above me so like crazy, and I'm sure a lot of you are doing the same, are doing or maybe have done the same thing. So you know, it's really hard to make that choice, but you, especially again, like if the 3D is right up in your face and it's showing you something, you feel like you have no choice but to look at it. But understand, looking at it isn't what perpetuates it. What actually perpetuates it is you latching onto that and making it your identity, right? You accepting it as truth. The 3D doesn't define you. Doesn't make it. Whatever the 3D shows you is not your truth. It is not who you are. And so, what you really are is what you accept you are. And again, this all goes back to how people treated you in the past or whatever. Just like the example I gave. This is one example with a friend group, but this can be applied to everything, right? You make the choice and then you stick to it. That's how shit works, okay? Every time you're going to hear me say this, you see this in all my videos that I make on TikTok. You see this on the last episode of the podcast I made. But you make a choice and you stick to it no matter what. When my friends were knocking on the door asking for me to come outside, right? When the old awareness was telling you, hey, go hang out with your friends. Go, just, don't lose them or else you might not have any friends. No, I have friends that care about me. I'm worth it. I know it, right? I stuck to that choice over and over again. And you got to do the same thing, right? Because eventually, everything that is done in heaven will be seen on earth. And so you guys have to understand that. Everything that is done on heaven is seen on earth. And so the work, the internal work that you're putting in for yourself, I don't even want to call it work really, but you choosing yourself will obviously see the results. You guys have done that time and time and again in your own lives, right? How many times have you made a choice, stuck to it, and have seen the result of that? I can guarantee you, it doesn't even have to be just for good things, bad things also. For everything, every decision you make, you see an outcome for it. Okay? So you have to give yourself the outcome you want first, then, and you do that internally, then you see the reflection of that. 3D, this 3D world can't show you shit. It cannot give you anything unless you give it to yourself first. If I had never given myself the experience and the trust and the faith in knowing that I would have better friends, I would have never had them. I would have probably went back to my old friends, right? And right now, I'm at a point where I've got a really good self-concept and I have a good relationship with my friends of the past. I used to hold a huge grudge against them. I don't even hold that grudge against them anymore because I understand they were only reflecting back the assumptions I was making about them, right? Right now, I've got a really good view on these people in my life, you know? I don't view them in a negative way or in a harsh way. And we all have a good relationship together, albeit I don't see them all the time. I might see them 1 or 2 times a year or whatever. But I don't hate these people, and I don't see them as bad people. And because I don't see them or feel any sort of animosity like that towards them anymore, they give me the respect I know I'm worth. They treat me with respect. Then they treat me right, the way I know I'm deserving to be treated. And I don't even give it a second thought because I know my worth, right? So you have to understand, eventually these assumptions that you make over time will be reflected back to you. And when it is reflected back to you, you know, it will end up becoming a part of you. And that's really the most important part. You want to solidify this as a part of you before it even shows up in your life, right? And again, this isn't to say that you're not going to have intrusive thoughts or whatever, but it's the meaning that you're giving the intrusive thought. An intrusive thought is what? Just a thought, right? What makes it intrusive is us giving it the definition that it's something intrusive against what we want. So I can either look at an intrusive thought as a threat, or I can look at it as something like, oh wow, I can't believe the fucking ego is trying to fuck with me with this. Too bad it can't because I know my truth. It's what you're entertaining and what you're not. Okay? I don't want to make this a super long video because again, it is super fucking late right now and I don't really have a whole lot to say. Again, didn't even get a chance to write down anything. So I'm sorry for the shorter episode, but I did just want to get something out for you guys because I just kind of wanted to talk about this small thing. So the next episode will be an hour long. Don't worry about that. But, you know, if my story gives you anything, it should be this. Just to summarize everything as a whole. First, reflection is important. Look back on your life. See how you were treating yourself and how people just had to treat you because of the way you were treating yourself. Understand that. Then make a new choice. Stick to that choice. No matter what your mind tells you, no matter what the 3D is showing you, you're going to stick to that choice. Okay? And then the more continuously you stick to this choice over and over and over again, obviously reality has to reflect that back to you because now you're seeing it as truth. Because now you've decided, nope, this is the truth. Nope, this is the truth. Nope, this is the truth. Right? You claiming it as a truth every now moment makes it real. Understand that. You claiming it in the now moment right now makes it real immediately. It's not like you have to convince anyone of anything. You don't have to convince your mind that it's real. You claimed it's real. That's all you ever had to do. And that will eventually be seen outside. It is that simple, okay? So keep that in mind, and hopefully you actually will reflect on yourselves a little bit deeper with this. Hopefully my experience helped you with that. And, you know, once you've done your reflections, there should be a lot more peace that kind of comes over your mind, a relaxation almost, because you understand yourself on a deeper level. And understanding yourself on a deeper level really makes things a lot easier because you know how your mind's going to react to certain things before things happen. So you can, before anything even happens, you can choose to give yourself the experience that you'd rather have anyway. And doing that is like the ultimate weapon, right? That right there is going to give you the best possible outcome always, right? You don't entertain bullshit, so you will never get bullshit. No matter what it looks like outside, once you've made something your identity, it can't just come back unless you choose for it to come back. So if you did entertain bullshit in your life before, and then you put in the work and now you're seeing good shit happening for you, and now you're only entertaining good shit, then you will only be presented good shit, and the bad shit will be filtered out because that's not for you anymore. Reality can only give you what you've accepted. There's nothing real outside of you besides what you're seeing real internally. This is all a reflection. Even I'm just a reflection of you in some way, right? The knowledge you already know that exists within you naturally, effortlessly, because you are God, is just being expressed through me. You're not learning anything new. You're returning back to the truth that you already knew was within you all the time, right? So you got to understand everything comes through you. Your experience comes through you. You only experience certain things in your life because you've accepted them as truth. They have to come up in your life because you've accepted them as truth, right? So understanding why you accept whatever it is that you did, and then how you can change that's all you ever needed to do. Make the decision, let it go. And maybe I'll talk about detachment in the next episode. That'll be a good one. That'll be a much longer one because oh my god, I can go on about that for a very long time. But again, thank you guys for watching. I know this one was only like half an hour, but you know, I'm doing with the best what I can right now. It's actually 2 a.m. right now, and I gotta go to bed. So I will talk to you guys later. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I'll probably record another episode this week just because I want to give you a longer episode. So the detachment video will be coming out soon, and I'm really grateful that you guys sat here and watched my video. Thank you, and I'll see you guys later.